Representative democracy is one of the cornerstones of the U.S., but the process of bringing people to serve in politics is not exactly straightforward. Some people enter through family, business connections, or other avenues of public service. But in an increasingly diverse nation, how can we get more elected officials that reflect the makeup of our country? So joining us now with tips on how underrepresented communities can get into elected politics is Elaine Chao. She is a former U.S. Labor Secretary under President George W. Bush and former two-time Transportation Secretary under Presidents Bush Sr. and President Trump. Secretary Chao, welcome to Quicktake. So good to see you in person.
Thanks for having me.
So you've never run for elected office, but you know firsthand what's involved because you're married to Senator Mitch McConnell, who needs to run for election every 6 years. And you've observed plenty. And a lot of people come to you for tips. So you've kind of distilled everything into 3 points. And your first recommendation or suggestion for people who want to run for office, if they're an underrepresented minority, is pick the right district. What do you mean by that?
You really have to pick the right district because, you know, the majority of districts, or even states sometimes in the United States, the seat itself, there's a track record. There are voter results from previous elections that will tell you which way this particular district or seat will lean. So many times it's pretty clear that the seat will be very much red or it will be very much blue. And if you don't really fall, if your philosophy doesn't fall within that camp, it's very difficult for you to win. So find the district that suits your own particular philosophy that will enable you to succeed. Okay,
I hear what you're saying, but sometimes people get approached to run for office and they're like, I think you would be a great candidate for the Republican ticket or the Democrat ticket, and you're talking about a seat that is in the opposite district. What's going on there?
Well, of course, it's very enticing and very appealing to have someone come to you and, ask you to run and say, you're really needed for the country and we need you to do this. But I think it's really important to do your own homework, to understand, again, what is the voters' proclivity and their leanings in that seat, in that district? Because many times the people who are involved in these campaigns, they want a body, someone to occupy that ballot space. Because if for whatever reason the wind is at your back and the whole slate of ballots get elected, they want to make sure that every single spot on their ballot is filled with somebody, so that when lightning strikes, if it does, there'll be somebody who will be swept into office that is their team.
But realistically, it's unlikely that you would if it's a district in the other party. And so you're just being used in a way.
Well, that's why you have to be careful. Do your homework.
Okay, do your homework. The second one, and I think anyone who's in elected politics can understand this, is you have to raise money. That can be a difficult ask, especially if you've never really done it before.
Oh, it's really easy. It must be easy. And that's
why... If you're going to run for politics, it must be easy?
Well, I've always, because your ability to separate a voter from their hard-earned resource is an indication of their passion for you, your campaign, your ideas. So that is the first hurdle to selling yourself, selling your philosophy, selling your ideas. Because once they give even that $1, they're bound to you. And they're going to watch you with greater interest, and they're going to follow you, and most likely they will vote for you.
How do you ask for money without actually coming out to say, can you give me money?
You must do that. You ask them, I need $1,000 from you. I need $100 from you. And will you please help me? You put it as simple as that. You've got to sell yourself.
Don't beat around the bush or anything.
No, not at all. There's no need to. Hey, listen, the donor is busy also, okay? So let's just be really efficient. They know why you're there. They know that having financial resources is really useful and helpful and necessary for getting your message out. So the fact that they are talking to you already is an indication they are interested, they want to help, and they are very likely to be won over. So you basically have to close the deal, make a pitch for yourself, and then you must close the deal, which is, this is going to be a campaign in which I'm going to need your help. Will you step up and give me $100?
And how much of your time while
don't
running
ask
that campaign?
for anything small. Okay?
Right, okay.
So that's
think big, in other words.
So I was head of United Way.
Yeah.
And I helped to do a lot of fundraising for United Way. And the worst thing that can happen is that you ask a person for less than what they were willing to give initially, although unspoken. So you need to go big, they can always come down. But if you go small and they were ready to give something big, you can't go back again to the larger number.
Right. Okay, that's a really good take. Okay, so you have to do your research. You have to know how much they're willing to part with, and you have to just be bold and ask for the money and close the deal. Okay, the third tip you have is you have to have support of the party. And by party, you mean either the Democrat Party or the Republican Party.
You don't really need it. And we have seen candidates who have done very well without the party's establishment's support. But if you're
For instance?
I think, you have a lot of the Tea Party people who came in 2010. They did not have a lot of party support initially, and they started their own movement of volunteers and supporters. And on the left and on the other side, you have some of the Squad, for example.
AOC.
They were just newcomers to the political scene, and yet they were able to garner enough support and enthusiasm to be able to spark a movement, literally.
But if you don't have that, then
if you don't have that, or you may not have the movement, you can appeal to the party. That's where the party is helpful, because they will have built-in infrastructure like volunteers and people who have had previous experience volunteering, helping out on past campaigns. So their wisdom, their experience is helpful. So you can have that again, that whole army of volunteers. And sometimes if you need legal help with this contest of the results, the party can help you with that as well. So there's a lot of just practical assistance that the party with its infrastructure can offer.
So you use the machine to help you move forward. Are you saying don't ever run as an independent, as a third-party candidate?
I think it's hard to run as a third-party candidate because, again, both parties, Democrat and Republican, have the infrastructure, foremost being, for example, volunteers. They will turn out because you are the Republican candidate or you are the Democrat candidate. But if you are independent, it's not to say that that is impossible, but it's harder to build up the infrastructure.
What if you have the name recognition already? For instance, I'm thinking Andrew Yang. He ran for president as a Democrat, as one of many Democrats. He ran for mayor of New York City in the primary as one of many Democrats, and now he's formed his own party called the Ford Party.
Well, I wish him luck. Andrew Yang will be forever a figure of history for what he has done. He's the first Asian American candidate to run for president, and for that he will always have a place in history.
So I'm glad you mentioned first Asian American because you are the first API woman to serve in the president's cabinet. Did you see the recent SNL skit where the guest host Simu Liu and the cast member Bowen Yang, who's the first Asian American cast member, were poking fun at their first Asian title as they're kind of competing each other, one-upping each other on representational wins? I mean,
it was really cute. I actually used to watch Simu. I watched every episode of Kim's Convenience Store.
You're a Simu fan.
Absolutely. And I'm so delighted that he gets to be a Marvel hero. I think it's really important for our country, for our society, and actually for the world as well. I'm really proud of him.
How does it feel for you to always have the first Asian American fill in the blank following your name?
When I was younger, it was tough. But because I thought that everything I did was reflective of our community. It was probably too heavy a burden for me to take that I didn't have to necessarily take on, but that's how I felt. And so I wanted everything that I did to reflect well on the community because I didn't want me to be a barrier to future advancement of other Asian Americans. And I'm glad that I was able to blaze the trail and provide more, open up the doors more for more opportunities for our community.
Yeah, that must have been, like you said, a lot of pressure. One way or another.
But it was also self-imposed. I'm Asian American, as you well know. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves.
Yeah, we do that. Let's talk about Asian Americans as a voting bloc, because in the last couple of elections, people have noticed that this is a critical population, a critical community, maybe even a swing vote. What's your take on that, how things have evolved over the last couple of decades?
Asian Americans they can be a swing vote and are increasingly becoming a swing vote in certain key states. Asian Americans are located primarily in urban areas in blue states. So that's like Washington, California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Massachusetts. They're going into Florida, which is no longer a blue state, and Texas. And Asian Americans are also now increasingly visible in Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Georgia. So they are branching, moving out from these blue states, and they are increasingly a swing vote. And I think there's this trend has been spurred, obviously, by what's happened with the anti-Asian violence and harassment during COVID.
Did you see the election where Michelle Wu won
Yes.
the mayor's race in Boston? There are actually 2 women of color
Yes.
in that race in a city like Boston, which I think caught a lot of people by surprise. There was a lot of incorrect press, a lot of incorrect claims made before she won the election.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, but I mean, people would equate her with someone who is from China when in fact she's not. Her parents immigrated from Taiwan.
Well, running for office is tough.
That's
And
just part of the
regardless,
game.
I hate to call it a game, and I don't want to. It's not a game, but the stakes are so high, and the ultra partisanship which our country now is experiencing contributes to that kind of vitriol. And I've been attacked, and I think what I'm concerned most is if someone like me, who can be attacked, and what does that mean for people who may not be as visible. So I'm concerned about I'm concerned about, this whole issue. And I've been helping many other Asian American groups and organizations to establish themselves, to come up, to provide more voices for our community. And I was among the very first to come out against Asian American violence around March 18th in Atlanta when that happened. So I think our consciousness as a group, as a community, is being raised, and I hope that there will be more candidates, and I hope that the tips that I've given will be helpful. I think it'll be good for our country.
Elaine Chao, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Elaine Chao is former Labor Secretary and former Transportation Secretary as well.